Welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to talk about a book called The Inimitable Jeeves by P.G. Wodehouse. I was first introduced to these books through PBS. Several years ago, Acorn Media dramatized these books, and here in the United States they were broadcast on PBS. And it was also my first introduction to Hugh Laurie and Stephen Fry. They are an incredibly hilarious comic duo. Here in the United States, people were introduced to Hugh Laurie through the television show House. He played Gregory House in that show. And Stephen Fry was on the television show Bones, and he was also in the Sherlock Holmes movies with Robert Downey Jr. Anyway, The Inimitable Jeeves. It pairs the two together. Hugh Laurie playing the English gentleman Bertram Wilberforce Wooster, and Stephen Fry playing his gentleman's gentleman Jeeves. Now, I was hearing something in the other room. I'm still hearing it. Wow, that's coming right through my door. Anyway, hopefully that doesn't make it into the recording. Let's go back to the story. Anyway, the story. So a lot of the Jeeves and Wooster stories were written as short stories, and so a lot of the collections or novels are these collections of short stories. Now, this one was maybe re-edited, so there was more of a narrative that kind of continued and flowed through each of the chapters, but each of the chapters is its own self-contained story. So we have Jeeves, who is he's the brains of the outfit. Now, that's not to say he's in charge of the outfit. He's just the brains. He is much smarter than his employer, Bertie. Bertie is the caricature and kind of the stereotype of the rich young Englishman. And he gets into a lot of what you would consider scrapes, problems. He gets into those because he is not very intelligent, and he's one of the first people to admit that his intelligence may be a bit lacking. It's kind of funny. I don't remember him having that kind of self-deprecating personality, or I shouldn't say personality, but that same self-deprecating stance in the television show, but in the books he definitely does. He says in one of the books he remarks that he's not the smartest tool in the shed, kind of thing. Jeeves, on the other hand, is very intelligent and very clever. So Bertie and Bertie's friends, who are much like him, come to rely on Jeeves for solutions to their problems. Now, these stories are not what you would think of as in terms of traditional comedy. They're more written for wit and humor. So the situation is funny. The writing is good. You can understand the characters and you can see their development or lack of it. But at the same time, this is not I'm rolling on the floor laughing my guts out. This is so amusing. I just can't put this down. I got to keep reading, and they're very easily digestible. The humor is just there in the characters, in the pages, and the P.G. Wodehouse does an excellent job in making this a delightful read. I've read other stories that he's done, but my favorites so far are the Jeeves and Wooster stories. Now, in the Inimitable Jeeves, a lot of things happen because, as I said, there's a lot of short stories that are all rolled into one. But they do have some threads that kind of tie them together in continuity. So one of the threads is Bingo, Wooster's friend, Bingo. In a number of the stories, he falls in love. And in the first story, for instance, he falls in love with a waitress, and he's worried that his uncle, his uncle supports him. His uncle is a wealthy man and basically gives his nephew an allowance, and so Bingo is worried that if his uncle finds out about him dating this waitress, that he will then pull his support, and he will stop paying for Bingo to live, and Bingo will have to get a horror of horror job. So Jeeves suggests that he uses some romance novels to get his uncle kind of on his side. And how is that supposed to work? How is a romance novel? What it is he's using specific romance novels that depict romance between classes. So an English gentleman falls in love with a working girl. Working girl in this case being like a waitress or a shopkeeper, not a working girl. Or the English lady falls in love with the stable hand, something of that nature, where it is shown that this person who is of common background is a very upright and virtuous individual, and the romance between them is something in itself that is virtuous as well. And so he's trying to use this to sway his uncle to his side. Now, Bingo falls in and out of love, so he also falls in love with Honoria Glossop. He falls in love with a woman named Charlotte Corday Robotham. He falls in love with Cynthia Wickhammersley. And yes, the names are... Bingo falls in love with Mary Burgess, another waitress. I love the names in these. Again, Honoria Glossop, as I said, Bingo falls in love with her, but Bertie's Aunt Agatha wants Bertie to marry her instead, and he gets engaged to her and then has to and then with Jeeves' help, he has to try to figure out how to get out of that engagement, because while he says that she's a fine girl, she's just not for him, kind of thing. And he ends up fleeing to America, and I say fleeing, I do mean fleeing. He's not very happy with his Aunt Agatha and she with him, and so Jeeves suggests that maybe some time out of the country might make things cool off, and so he leaves England and comes to the United States, where his aunt says, well, at least while you're there, do something useful with yourself and keep Cyril Bassington out of the theater. And not that he can't go and watch like a play or something, but his family does not want him to be an actor. And so he has to so Bertie, in order to get back into her good graces, rather than just saying, who is Cyril Bassington and why should I care, which is what I would do, I would say no. But in order to get back into his aunt's good graces, he agrees reluctantly to try to keep him from becoming an actor. So there's all of these situations where Bertie and his friends get into some scrape, and I have to say that if you're looking for a different formula in your novels, you'll read one Jeeves and Wooster book and you'll be done, because that's basically all of them. There's some scrape that they get in, that Bertie and his friends get into, and Jeeves has to help them get out. That's not to say that they are not entertaining or that he doesn't take things in a different way each time, but they're they're very similar in structure. It was something that worked for him and worked for the story. And so in this case, why mess with perfection? I very much enjoyed reading The Inimitable Jeeves and kind of seeing where the television show and the novels matched up and where they diverged. If you're interested in that British humor, you can't go wrong with The Inimitable Jeeves and the novels of P.G. Wodehouse. And if you're interested in Hugh Laurie and Stephen Fry and that, again, the British humor and things, I highly recommended the Jeeves and Wooster series that they were in. That's it for today. Let me know if you've read The Inimitable Jeeves. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Like, subscribe, put the bell on so you get notifications, and until next time, enjoy what you're reading.